What's really changing with universal credit, PIP ESA, and housing benefits? Is this a win or a loss? Who are the winners and the losers? And what do you need to do to protect yourself? Find out as we break down the biggest benefit change in a generation. Hey everyone, welcome back to your Benefit Buddy. Today, I'm breaking down the biggest changes to the benefit system in the generation. So grab a cuppa, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the detail together. So what's actually changing? Who does it affect, and why should you care? Well, first off, the DWP are planning to scrap the old local housing allowance system and replace it with a new national system where rent levels will be set based on your location and the size of the home you need. The problem is that this new system has been capped nationally, so it won't reflect the actual cost of renting in popular city areas. So in practice, this means that people renting in expensive parts of the country like London or Manchester or Birmingham will likely receive less help towards their rent than they do right now. To add to that, the minimum amount you'll have to pay towards your rent if you're on housing benefit or the housing element of universal credit has also been increased. At the moment, you only have to pay 1/3 of any shortfall between your benefit and your rent. That's now being cut down to 1/5. That might not sound like much, but it makes a huge difference when you consider that, on average, people on housing benefit are already paying over £500 a month towards their rent. Now look, I'll level with you. These changes are mostly irrelevant for people like me who own their own homes. But if you're renting, then trust me, you need to hear me out on this. So let's move on to universal credit. Universal credit is being increased in line with inflation from April 2025, which is good news. But for people on higher universal credit awards due to health conditions, that's where it gets complicated. You see, right now, if you have a health condition that affects your ability to work, you can apply for extra support through universal credit called the disability premium or the health component. It's currently worth around £97 a week. That's around £5,000 a year. But from April 2026, if you're a new claimant, you'll only be able to claim £50 a week, which is half of the current rate. And even if you're already receiving this extra money, if you're on the current rates, then you'll be frozen until which means that you'll lose out on the additional payments included in the rest of the universal credit award. So in total, this could mean that you could be nearly £725 a year worse off by 2030. The government says that these changes are designed to encourage people with moderate health conditions to return to work. But campaigners say that this overlooks the fact that some people may want to work but can't due to fluctuating or hidden disabilities or illnesses. The truth is that for millions of people, being ill isn't something you can just turn on and off like a tap. Sure, if you're unable to work, you can claim benefits. But what if you're able to work a little bit? What if you're able to work a few days a week or a couple of hours a day? Well, under the new proposals, you'll get less help towards your rent if you're reworking a few days a week, and you'll be financially penalized if you're not working at all. But for many of us, relying solely on benefits just isn't an option. We need to earn some income, but we also need to manage our health. And under these proposals, it looks like we're going to be penalized either way. Now moving on to PIP, which is going through its biggest shakeup since 2017. To qualify for the daily living component of PIP, you'll need to score at least 4 points from a single activity. For example, you'll need to score 4 points from either preparing food, washing, bathing, or getting dressed. Under the current rules, you can collect smaller points from different activities, and most PIP claimants receive points from multiple activities. Now, while the new test could make the assessment more straightforward, the point threshold is double the score needed for most current claimants, and experts estimate that this could mean up to 800,000 people could lose their PIP payments altogether. That's an average loss of over £4,500 per year. And if you're receiving carer's allowance tied to a PIP recipient, you could lose that too. Although the government is providing a 3-month payment to ease the transition, campaigners say that this isn't enough. Now let's discuss ESA. Employment and support allowance will also be affected by the scrapping of the work capability assessment. ESA is currently paid to people who are unemployed and unable to work due to illness or disability. ESA claimants will instead be assessed for PIP to determine their eligibility for ESA. The migration of all ESA claimants to universal credit was originally planned for 2028, but it has been brought forward to March 2026. While this might allow more people to access universal credit earlier, it could also be overwhelming for many ESA claimants who may not be ready to make the switch or who might need additional support during the transition. And finally, we've got ESA. Unlike the ESA changes, this is going to affect everyone regardless of whether or not you're sick or disabled. State pension age will increase from 66 to 67 between now and 2028. Now this has already been factored into our plans, and most of us should expect to retire a little bit later anyway. So why is the government doing this? According to the government, these changes are part of a wider effort to make sure that benefits are sustainable and targeted at those who need them most. The UK spends more than £55 billion a year on disability and health-related benefits, and that is projected to reach £60 billion by 2030. The government says that by focusing support on those who are severely and permanently disabled, they can save money and encourage more people with moderate conditions to return to work. But critics argue that this approach overlooks the fluctuating or invisible nature of many disabilities and illnesses. Just because someone doesn't appear unwell doesn't mean they're not struggling, and removing support might worsen both poverty and health outcomes. Okay, so who are the winners and the losers? Well, the clear winner here is anyone who's claiming standard universal credit. If you don't have any extra needs, then you're going to see an increase in line with inflation. But unfortunately, it's hard to ignore that the losers here are people with disabilities and long-term health conditions. People claiming ESA are now having to migrate to universal credit 2 years earlier than planned, meaning they'll have to adapt to a new system and learn how it works before then. And on top of that, people who were previously able to claim ESA and PIP may now need to rely on universal credit instead. Those receiving carer's allowance linked to a PIP recipient could also face challenges. PIP mobility and daily living rates have been frozen since 2016, leading to a significant drop in purchasing power, and the proposed changes to the daily living component could see hundreds of thousands of people lose their eligibility for PIP altogether. Finally, renters in high-cost areas on housing benefit are likely to be the biggest losers. The national cap on local housing allowance means that rent support may no longer reflect actual local rent prices, particularly in areas like London, Manchester, and Birmingham. So what do you need to do to protect yourself? Well, first off, if you're on ESA, then you'll need to keep an eye out for updates from the DWP about the transfer to universal credit. They should be in touch soon with more information about when this will happen. And if you're on PIP, then you'll need to make sure that you report any changes in your condition or your circumstances to the D straight away. If you don't, then you could risk losing your PIP. And if you're renting, then you'll need to watch out for changes in your local area. And check if your housing benefit will still cover your rent after the changes come into effect. So what do you think? Are these changes about making the benefit system fairer and more sustainable, or they're just another way of cutting costs and putting the burden on the most vulnerable? Let me know in the comments below. If you're worried about the future of benefits, then why not join my free newsletter? Every week I'll keep you up to date with the latest news and tips that you need to know about. And don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss an update. Until next time, stay strong, stay informed, and take care.